everyone. Today we're going to take a trip out to a place called Leadfield. It's in California, in Titus Canyon, also in Death Valley, about 120 miles north and west of Las Vegas. It was a very short-lived mining town, only lasted officially about 1 year. Timing was poor and a lot of speculation. But we're going to go out there and check it out. Let's go see what we can find. Got the trusty coffee for the road trip. Let's go explore.
The ghost town of Leadfield is located in the middle of Titus Canyon in Death Valley. It's about 22 miles west of Beatty. This ghost town has become identified in Western mining lore as an example of fraud and deceit at its worst. During the early days of the bullfrog boom, Titus Canyon, like most of the territory surrounding that district, was examined by hopeful prospectors. Leadfield, in fact, had ore from the beginning, which was in 1905, not in 1925. In the fall of that year, prospectors staked out 9 lead and copper claims in the canyon. As usual, the news of the strike stimulated other prospectors and companies to get in on the potential bonanza, and claims were filed for miles around. And one of the companies that was formed was called the Death Valley Consolidated Property. By May of 1906, they had progressed far enough to start taking out its better ore for shipment to the smelters. The company soon realized, however, that the long and arduous trip between the mine and rhyolite and the high freight rates prevalent between rhyolite and far-off smelters made the shipments of its ore absolutely unprofitable. As a result, the company ceased operations, and after a brief 6 months long lifespan, the Death Valley Consolidated Properties Company disappeared. Because of the high cost of freight and shipping out the ore, there was virtually no activity as far as mining goes up until about March of 1924, when some prospectors wandered into the canyon and began to stake out numerous claims on some lead deposits which they found. They worked their claims for over a year before selling out. They sold out to a company called Western Lead Mines, and the company had accumulated over 50 claims in the Titus Canyon area and started to work. A compressor plant was installed to power the company's air drills. 18 men and 6 trucks began to build a long and steep auto road out of the Titus Canyon towards Beatty Highway. This is the very road that everybody uses today to get to Leadfield. In January of 1926, the company built a boarding house and began to lay pipeline from Kari Spring, about 2 miles down the canyon, to the mine site. The young camp was entering the boom stage. Following an enthusiastic AP report on the new camp, the Inyo County Recorder reported that location notices were pouring into its offices. By January 30th, the town had been officially named Leadfield, and a half dozen mining companies were in operation. Then in early February of 1926 came the announcement which seemed to assure the future of Leadfield. C.C. Julian, the well-known oil promoter of Southern California, who had been much in the limelight of late years on account of his spectacular oil operations, had bought into the Western Lead Mines Company and was its new president. With the backing of such a successful and skilled promoter, Leadfield seemed assured of attaining the necessary financial support to take it from a prospecting boom camp into a producing mine town. The boom was on now in earnest. During February of 1926, the Western Lead Company was reported to have 100 men working in its mine and on the Titus Canyon Road, and talk of building a 500-ton mill was heard. When the road was completed in late February, a steady stream of trucks began entering the canyon, carrying timber, machinery, and supplies. The Western Lead Company expanded its payroll to 140 men, and at least 6 other companies were engaged in serious mining. However, the California State Corporation Commission was not so impressed with Julian's company. They have chased him around from fraud to fraud to fraud throughout the state of California. The Inyo County newspaper strongly supported this mining operation and the promotion that Julian did on this particular location. They thought that they were just singling out Julian based upon his past controversies. Then in March of 1926 came the day which would put Leadfield on the map, when the first of Julian's promotional excursions pulled into Beatty by train. Together with another 840 visitors from Tonopah and Goldfield, along with those that were on the train, the entourage overwhelmed Beatty until loaded into 94 automobiles for the trip through Titus Canyon into Leadfield. The guests were served a feast. Dinner was served to music provided by a six-piece band imported from Los Angeles. It was also attended by the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Nevada at that time, who gave a keynote speech in praising Julian. Leadfield boom was now in its height. Plans were announced to build a 40-room hotel, and a week after the grand excursion, the town had its own newspaper, the Leadfield Chronicle. By the end of the month of March, Western lead stock had soared. The town continued to grow through the month of April, but the continued investigations by the state of California began to hurt the sales of the Western lead stock, and other factors began to take a toll. The California Corporation Commission dealt Julian another blow when it halted sales of stock in other mines that he had owned. When sales of Julian's merger mines were forbidden, Julian's hopes were crushed and the empire fell apart. Julian was now broke, which meant that the Western Lead Company and the New Roads and the Leadfield Townsite companies were also broke. With the leading mine companies and the leading promoter of Leadfield out of the picture, investors and other companies quickly lost heart, and the collapse of Julian's companies had a domino effect. The other mines slowly closed one after another, and Leadfield became a ghost town in a matter of several months. The post office opened only a few months before and closed in January of 1927. Julian, in the meantime, went on to the Oklahoma oil booms, where he had organized the Julian Oil and Royalties Company. After several years of operation, he was indicted for using the mails to defraud investors, but he jumped bail and fled to Shanghai, China in 1933. A year later, he committed suicide at the age of 40. Like so many other stories of mining operations in and around this period of time, it is always a character, a promoter, and there's usually seems to be a short lifespan of these mining operations. That kind of concludes the history of it. Let's go looking around and see what we can find.
This ghost town of Leadville was founded in 1926 based upon a bunch of false hype. However, the promoters were able to get 300 people into this valley. They opened up a post office in 1926. They closed the post office in 1927, and then the town died. That was the end of it. According to the key map, this is an old warehouse of some sort. Makes sense the way it's configured, nice and open. Some tailings, mining tailings right there. Foundation for some kind of machinery. There's a key map back there. I'll discover what it is later. But you can see also the beauty of the whole area too. This is called Titus Canyon. The old buildings are still really a lot of fun just to look at. In the 1920s, 26 to be exact, This was still a very remote place. And probably very hard to get material and equipment here. But the promoters of this town really did a good job of hyping it up, and it gained a lot of attention for a very short period of time.
Well, this concludes my presentation of Leadfield, California, located in Titus Canyon in Death Valley. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel to see other content that's similar to this. Thanks again.